Welcome to Xiao Universe. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share this video with your friends. The world outside shimmered with the promise of spring, but for Tong Liya, joy bloomed internally, a secret garden tended with whispered hopes and gentle touches. Her hand instinctively rested on her abdomen, a silent dialogue with the life stirring within. Jerry Yang, ever the steadfast anchor, would often join her, his large hand enveloping hers, his smile a constant source of warmth. They meticulously planned, dreamed, and meticulously prepared, their future unfurling like a perfect scroll. The nursery, painted in soft, hopeful greens, already held miniature clothes and a tiny, untouched crib, a testament to the boundless anticipation that filled their home. The first mind-blowing moment came not with a flourish, but with a chilling, internal void. Liya was in her studio, lost in the vibrant chaos of a new painting, when a subtle shift occurred. It wasn't pain, not at first. It was a profound, cold silence where warmth had pulsed. A sudden, terrifying emptiness in the very core of her being, a biological disconnection that felt like the earth itself had stopped spinning. Her brush clattered to the floor, her hands flying to her stomach, no longer feeling the delicate flutter of life. The vibrant colors of her canvas bled into a muddy, terrifying gray. Panic, cold and sharp, pierced through her. Jerry found her later, crumpled on the floor, her eyes wide and vacant, the unquantifiable grief a silent scream echoing in the quiet room. The hospital confirmed their darkest fear, a silent, early loss. The baby, their spring bloom, was gone. The days that followed were a blur of numb disbelief. The nursery, once a beacon of hope, became a mausoleum of unfulfilled dreams. Liya moved through life as if encased in glass, sounds muffled, colors dulled, her touch unable to truly connect with anything. Jerry, typically so grounded, felt his world tilt on its axis. He saw Liya, his vibrant, effervescent Liya, reduced to a hollow shell. He tried to reach her, to pull her back from the precipice of despair, but his words felt like stones thrown into a bottomless well. Their shared future, once so clear, had dissolved into a terrifying, formless void. The silence in the home was not peaceful, it was deafening, filled with the ghost of a laugh that would never be heard. Months crawled by, marked by hesitant steps towards healing. The grief never truly vanished, but it transformed, settling into a quiet ache. Then, against the backdrop of their still fragile hearts, a fragile new hope began to bloom. Liya was pregnant again. This time, the joy was tinged with a profound, almost paralyzing fear. Every twitch, every ache, every moment of silence sent a jolt of terror through them. They clung to each other, a silent prayer constantly on their lips, their hope a delicate flame against the lingering shadow of the past. The labor began with cautious optimism, but soon, the medical team's hushed tones and strained faces signaled trouble. Complications. The baby was in distress. The delivery room became a vortex of frantic urgency. Machines beeped with erratic rhythms, doctors moved with a desperate, precise choreography, their voices clipped commands. Liya, her body racked with pain, fought with every ounce of her being, her mind screaming for her child, willing it to survive. Jerry stood by her side, his hand clasped in hers, his heart a raw, open wound. He watched the monitor, the faint, flickering line of his baby's heartbeat a terrifying dance between presence and absence. He wanted to scream, to bargain, to tear the very world apart to save this precious life. In a moment of mind-blowing clarity, he felt a desperate, fading light within Liya, a tiny, struggling flicker that was his child, trying to reach them, before it, too, went silent. The silence that followed was not the quiet of new life, but the profound, crushing weight of ultimate loss. The baby, their second hope, was gone. Born too soon, its tiny body unable to cling to life. The room, once filled with frantic energy, felt utterly empty. The cries of a newborn, the joyous, triumphant sound they had yearned for, were replaced by Liya's raw, guttural sob, a sound that tore at the very fabric of Jerry's soul. He fell to his knees, clutching her hand, the world around them collapsing into a meaningless void. In the depths of their shared grief, the world outside their hospital room underwent a surreal, mind-blowing transformation. For Liya, the hospital walls seemed to dissolve, replaced by an infinite, shimmering expanse of nothingness. Colors drained from her vision, leaving everything in stark, aching monochrome. Sounds became muted, distant echoes, as if filtered through a thick, cold fog. When she closed her eyes, she saw not darkness, but a vast, silent, empty nursery, its tiny crib floating in an endless void, a devastating symbol of the two lives that would never fill it. Her very being felt like a hollow chamber, vibrating with a constant, unquantifiable ache. Jerry experienced his own mind-blowing manifestation of grief. Every time he looked at Liya, he saw a flickering, almost translucent phantom limb of light where their first baby should have been, a delicate, ethereal presence that pulsed with unfulfilled potential. When he looked at his arms, he felt the ghost weight of a child he had never held, a profound physical emptiness that radiated outwards. The air around them was heavy, thick with the unwept tears and unspoken dreams of two lost futures. Sometimes, in the deepest hours of the night, when sleep was impossible, he would hear the faint, echoing sound of two lullabies, perfectly harmonized, one for each child they had lost, gently fading into the vast, silent emptiness of their shattered world. Their grief was a shared, mind-blowing landscape of sorrow, a testament to the two invisible lives that had touched them so profoundly, leaving behind a void that no words, no logic, no comfort could ever truly fill. They clung to each other, two anchors adrift in a sea of despair, facing the impossible task of finding a way to live, to breathe, to simply be, in a world where the most profound joy had been extinguished twice, leaving behind only the echoing silence of what might have been. Stay tuned to Zhan Universe for updates, exclusive breakdowns, and emotional reactions as the story unfolds. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because this miracle might just be real. The silence in their home was not an absence of sound. It was a living entity, heavy and suffocating, draped over every piece of furniture, every forgotten cup. Tong Liya moved like a ghost through the rooms, her vibrant spirit a faint, fading memory. Her art studio was a tomb of unfinished canvases, the colors on her palette a mockery of the life that had been so cruelly extinguished. Jerry Yang, for his part, tried to fill the void with frantic, meaningless tasks, his mind a relentless engine of grief, but every action was a futile attempt to mend a soul that felt irrevocably shattered. Even when they held each other, the space between them was filled with the echoing silence of two lives that had never been. Jerry watched her, a profound ache in his chest, and knew he had to do more than simply exist beside her. He went to his private studio, a place he hadn't touched since the first loss, and powered up a forgotten bioresonance system. It was a prototype designed to map emotional frequencies, to give a tangible shape to abstract feelings. It was a wild, desperate idea, a scientific tool for an utterly unquantifiable wound. He brought Liya to the room, her eyes dull, her movements sluggish. He gently placed the soft, glowing headset over her head, its faint light reflecting in her vacant eyes. "Just trust me," he whispered, connecting his own headset. The moment he activated the system, the mundane reality of the room dissolved, and a mind-blowing, shared hallucination took hold. Jerry didn't try to fill the void with false hope. He projected a raw, unfiltered emotional memory for her. Suddenly, they weren't in the somber studio. They were in the sun-drenched living room of a year ago, bathed in a warm, golden light. They didn't see the memory so much as feel it. Liya gasped as she felt the gentle warmth of the sun on her skin, a physical sensation she hadn't experienced in months. Then, the most startling sensation, she felt the giddy, breathless joy of that first sonogram, the raw elation that had consumed her when they saw the first flicker of life on the screen. The sound of their shared, shocked laughter, a sound that had been a silent ghost in their home, filled her ears. The experience was not a passive viewing. It was a total emotional immersion. They felt the overwhelming rush of unburdened hope, the feeling of two souls brimming with a love so immense it could fill an entire universe. The sensation was so real, so profound, it made the air around them vibrate with a pure, unadulterated happiness. Jerry projected the feeling of him wrapping his arms around her from behind, her belly a source of immense wonder, as they stood in the nursery they had just finished painting. She felt his chin on her shoulder, the gentle pressure of his hand on her stomach, and a wave of security so absolute it brought fresh, raw tears to her eyes. This was not a memory of what was lost, but a pure distillation of the love that had been there all along. The projection faded, leaving them trembling and gasping for air. The room was back to normal, but it was fundamentally changed. For the first time, Liya saw a flicker of color in her world. It wasn't the vibrant palette of her past, but a new, more profound and bittersweet range. She looked at Jerry, her eyes filled with a fresh understanding, and knew that the silence in their home was no longer empty. It was filled with a beautiful, echoing memory of their joy, a silent lullaby they could now hear together. The final, and most terrifying, frontier of their grief was the nursery. It had become a forbidden zone, a sacred, silent space in their minds, a tomb of unfulfilled dreams and silent sorrows. They had both avoided it, and in doing so, had given it a haunting power over them. One evening, after the day's fragile progress, they stood before the closed door, a silent pact passing between them. They had to face the quiet ghost of their loss. Jerry reached for the doorknob, his hand shaking. As he turned it and the door swung open, a mind-blowing, shared hallucination began. The room wasn't empty. It was filled with two shimmering, beautiful, ethereal figures of light. The first, a small, flickering glow, pulsed gently in the center of the room. It was a silent, peaceful memory of the first life lost. The second, more formed and translucent, a beautiful, unformed echo of the second child, hovered gently over the crib. The figures weren't ghosts. They were the emotional echoes of their two lost children, manifested in the surreal landscape of their grief, a visual embodiment of the two lives that had only existed in their hearts. The air in the room was not thick with sorrow, but with a profound, unconditional love. The figures radiated a serene, calming energy. They were not sad, they were pure love, pure peace. They pulsed, as if telling them that their brief lives had been filled with nothing but love and a sense of profound belonging. Leah and Jerry broke down, not from grief, but from an overwhelming sense of acceptance and peace. They reached out, their hands passing through the ethereal light, not a physical touch, but a mind-blowing emotional connection that transcended all logic. They felt the essence of their children, pure, perfect, and eternally loving. The figures began to fade, not vanishing into nothingness, but integrating into a single beautiful point of light that radiated profound love and peace into the room. It settled into the tiny crib, a permanent, radiant glow, a testament to the lives that had been, and a promise that their love had not been in vain. The story ends with them choosing to transform the nursery. They carefully removed the untouched clothes and toys, their movements now filled with a calm, purposeful grace. They painted the walls a new, deeper shade of green, a color that held both the memory of their joy and the scars of their sorrow. The room was no longer a place of pain, but a memorial, a sanctuary, a place of profound memory and future hope. The loss was not forgotten, but it was now a part of their journey, a deep, beautiful, and painful scar that had made their love stronger than ever. They had not just survived, they had found a way to carry their sorrow, transforming it into a foundation for a new, more empathetic life together, their hearts now forever open to a love that was both visible and mind-blowingly, eternally present.